So I did a video recently where I talked about leaving Jehovah's Witnesses. I covered my life from 17 to 18, but I feel like I left some stuff out, so this is part 2 of that. First, I feel like I left out how much my life has improved since I left. And second, I left out what was so bad about being Jehovah's Witness in the first place. I'll start with the aftermath of leaving. The following few years were very, very hard. Fast food jobs, working 80-hour weeks at 2 different jobs, trying to support a baby and a wife. It was miserable. I was a high school dropout because I had to support myself. I had no money, nowhere to live, nothing to my name. I have 2 brothers and 1 sister, and when I was around 10 years old, my oldest brother got disfellowshipped when he was about 20. He was thoroughly shunned by me and my entire family. So when I left, my brother was the only family member who wasn't shunning me. And after Alpha Force Zero was born, I didn't have to face the full force of shunning from my parents because they wanted to take part in our life. They would ignore me, treat me like shit, act like I was dirty and disgusting, but they'd let me come over to their house every now and then if I brought my daughter with me. But before Alpha Force Zero was born, my disfellowshipped brother became my roommate. My new wife and I moved into a big house with him. He also struggled his entire life as a result of never being given a chance to succeed or being encouraged to go to college. My other brother, though, worked for an international software company. He was still Jehovah's Witness. I asked if he could get me a job there, and he told me that he didn't trust me not to chase after the first piece of ass I saw or do the first drug I found. At the time, I had no history of drug abuse. He was just telling me how he viewed me, as a non-witness. He viewed me as a fuck-up, a terrible person who was untrustworthy, and he viewed my wife as the first piece of ass I saw. I don't blame him for that. We've talked about that since, and I know that wasn't him talking. It was the religion talking. It was the way they're forced to view worldly people, or disfellowshipped people, as worthless. He's out now too, as is my sister. My dad is also out, but I don't talk to him anymore for other reasons. My mother is the only person left still in the religion. She calls my phone every now and then to talk to AF0, but she talks to me as little as possible. So eventually I found myself in the throes of drug addiction. I spent about 2 years as a heroin addict, from 19 to 21. After a while, I discovered a drug called Suboxone that saved my life. A lot of people say this is just trading one drug for another, and that may be the case. But after getting on Suboxone, I got my first software engineering job and became a productive, tax-paying member of society. So call it trading one drug for another if you want, but Suboxone actually saved my life. Now, after being out of the Jehovah's Witnesses religion for 10 years, I've been in the software field for 6 years, and I make good money. I support myself and my daughter. I have enough money to buy her new clothes and school supplies every year. I have enough money to take her on vacations. Things couldn't be better. It just takes time to separate yourself from the poison that is Jehovah's Witnesses. Now on to what was so bad about being Jehovah's Witness in the first place. I'm the youngest of 4 kids. The next brother in line for me is 5.5 years older. So when I was 12, he got married and moved out of state. All of my siblings wanted to get as far away from my dad as possible as soon as they were old enough. So I was left alone with my parents from 12 years old on. I'm gonna leave the physical abuse bit to one side, but know that it was there. For all 4 of us, and my mom. And some of us got it worse than others. When I was in 7th grade, my parents pulled me out of public school and started homeschooling me, which meant that I was going to be left alone with my dad 24/7 because my mom worked. Of course, as Jehovah's Witnesses, I wasn't allowed to have worldly friends. And there weren't really any kids in my congregation that I knew well or hung out with. So after about 6 months of having literally no contact with any other human beings, except both of my clinically bipolar parents and the plastic, fake Jehovah's Witnesses from the Kingdom Hall about 3 times a week, I started to lose my mind. I decided to get my bike and start riding it around. My disfellowshipped brother worked at a place about 2 miles away, so I rode it to his work and hung out there and talked to him a few times. Eventually, he actually slowed down talking to me on his own. I suspect because he knew it would get me in trouble. I also rode my bike up the street to hang out with this kid I knew from when I was in school. His parents had a box of M80s for some reason, so he and I would set them by trees and blow them up. We went through the whole box while his parents were gone. We hung out for a couple of weeks and it was great. But one day, my parents got in their car and followed me up the street when I went to his house. After that, they wouldn't let me leave the house anymore. They talked to a therapist who my dad knew from when they were kids, and the therapist told them to try what he called Siberia, where they put me in my bedroom and don't let me leave. I had no TV, no game systems, no nothing. Well, I had books. I read a lot, but it was still terrible. I was trapped in the bedroom for who knows how long, only allowed to come out to eat, or go to meetings. Naturally, being around only 2 bipolar people and plastic Jehovah's Witnesses for 3 years seriously changed my personality. In real life, I have trouble with social cues. I have trouble interacting with people normally. Anyways, that's my life as a Jehovah's Witness. Thanks for watching, guys.